Hello, everyone. Welcome to biology class. Here we are with the chapter number 8, part 2. The topic here we will be discussing is about the functions of the neurons. In the previous video, we have seen the structure of the neuron. We will discuss the related topic now, function. So, the neuron is doing what? The neuron is doing the particular function called as transmitting message. It transmit means it transfers or conducts the messages in the body. So these messages are in the form of nerve impulses and they travel from the brain to other parts of the body. So this is just what is called as the function of neurons. Now the nervous system in the case of the human beings, it includes the central nervous system called as CNS. Next is the peripheral nervous system called as PNS. And third is the automatic nervous system, that is ANS. In this chapter, we will study about the central nervous system, CNS, only in details. So let us have a look on the central nervous system. The central nervous system, it is the supreme power of controlling all the body responses, and it contains or it consists of brain and second is spinal cord. Both these organs are a part of the central nervous system. Remember this fact. It can be asked as a question, name the parts of central nervous system. Answer will be brain and spinal cord. So first of all, we look at the structure of the brain. Human brain is a highly developed organ and it is the uppermost part of the central nervous system. It is present in a hard bony box that is called as the cranium. Also, it is also referred as the skull. So that is the bony structure. It is protecting. What it is doing, this cranium is giving protection to the brain. It protects the brain from any mechanical injury because brain is a delicate organ and very important for conducting all the bodily functions. That is why it has to remain safe and secure. So the soft tissues of the brain are held inside the bony box called as the cranium or the skull. Then next, now human brain is enveloped by three meninges. Meninges are the three layers of the human brain. The outer one is the soft layer called as pia mater. Middle one is the thin layer called as arachnoid. Final one, the inner one, is a tough layer that is called as dura mater. So again I repeat, first one is pia mater, then second one is arachnoid, and the third and the last innermost one is dura mater. In between the pia mater and the dura mater, arachnoid is a thin layer that is present in between both the outer and inner layer. The three meninges are there. So there is always some space between the meninges, and this cavity of the brain, where this space is present in between the three layers, it is filled with a fluid. A clear fluid is present that is called as cerebrospinal fluid. What this cerebrospinal fluid is doing? It is providing cushioning to the brain against the shocks. So just to avoid the different layers of the brain or different meninges of the brain to have a wear and tear or to have a shock in case of something, some kind of injury is happening or something falls down on the head, then it may lead to severe injury in the brain. So that is why cerebrospinal fluid is there. It cushions the brain against various mechanical shocks. Let us have a look at the functions of the human brain now. It receives the information from the receptor organs and generate appropriate response and send them back to the effector organ. So basically it is deciding whatever has to be done by the body. So that is the first point. Second, now it control and regulate the overall functioning of the body, that we already know in details about that. It acts as a site of intelligence, memory and reasoning. This is one of the most important function of the human brain. Whatever intelligence related, memory related, reasoning related functions in the body are done, that are all related to the brain only. Now we will have a look on the three main parts into which the brain is divided. First one is the cerebrum, second one is the cerebellum, and the third one is the medulla oblongata. Cerebrum, cerebellum and medulla oblongata. One by one, we'll see the details. Cerebellum. Cerebrum is the largest part or the most complex part of the brain, and it is around 80% of the brain. That is cerebrum only. And this cerebrum is divided into two parts. One is the left and the right side. That is right cerebral hemisphere and the left cerebral hemisphere. In between This right and the left cerebral hemisphere, there is a sheet of thick fibers that is called as corpus callosum. Corpus callosum is present between the right side and the left side of the brain, or we can say right and left of the cerebrum. So both the right and left cerebral hemispheres are connected by corpus callosum. This corpus callosum will act as a medium of transfer of information between both the hemisphere. Suppose some information has to go from the right hemisphere to the left cerebral hemisphere. It will go through the corpus callosum only, through the thick fibers, through the thick tissues that are present in this corpus callosum. They will allow the transfer of the information from left to right or right to left of the cerebral hemisphere. This cerebrum is a highly folded structure, and these folds are given a name. They are called as gyri, and there are depressions between these gyri, or when the brain layer is folding, tissue is folding there, so some depression will come there, that is called as sulci. So gyri and sulci, both the gyri and sulci are doing what? They are increasing the surface area to accommodate more nerve cells. So that is the reason why the brain tissues are highly folded, cerebrum is highly folded, just to allow more nerve cell to be there. If more nerve cells are there, what is the benefit? It will allow the brain to be more responsive, to be more effective, to be more efficient. Brain can do its work in a better way then. So here you can see these are sulci. Here you can see different folds are there where depression is there, and different folds only are called as gyri. So these are the folds, and sulci are what? Wherever depression is present. So that is all. This is the cerebral hemisphere you can see right now. Second part of the brain, that is called as cerebellum. You can see at the back part or the posterior side of the brain it is present, and at the base you can see this is a stem like structure that is connecting the brain to the backbone or to the spinal cord. This is medulla oblongata. This diagram is important. You have to draw this in your copies. Let us see the functions of the cerebrum now. First, it helps to observe things through sense organs. Second, it controls thinking, memory, reasoning, and intelligence. Third one, it controls hearing, vision, mood, emotion, speech. So all these feelings are controlled by the cerebrum only. Next, now we'll see about the cerebellum. It is the region at the back of the head. Just now we have seen on the posterior side or at the back of the head only. This is the small part called as cerebellum. So cerebellum, let us read this. It is the second largest part of the brain, and it coordinates impulses sent out from the cerebrum. So whatever impulses, whatever nerve impulses are going, whatever electrical signals are moving out of the cerebrum, they all will be coordinated by the cerebellum. So now we'll see the functions. Function first is it controls the posture and balance of the body. Second, it coordinates the muscles during locomotions. Whenever you're moving from, or whenever you're doing different activities, day-to-day activities, all the muscles are working together. So they are working together because they are being coordinated. Coordinated means they all are being regulated or they are controlled by something. How they are controlled or coordinated? By the brain. And brain, which part is that? That is cerebellum. So whatever muscular activities you are doing, whatever day-to-day activities you do, muscles are always involved, and these muscles are working together only because cerebellum, at the back of our brain, is coordinating all these things. And the first point, that is it controls the posture and balance of the body. We are not falling down simply on standing. Why is it so? Because the cerebellum is helping in maintaining balance of the body, and it also maintains the posture of the body. Next, now medulla oblongata. Medulla oblongata is extending down from the center part of the brain, that is posterior most part of the brain, and continue into the spinal cord. Just now we have already referred to that in the diagram. At the base of the brain you can see this is a thread, a stem like structure, and it goes where? It is connected to the spinal cord, that is in the center of the backbone. So that is medulla oblongata. Now we'll see the functions. What this medulla is doing? It controls the involuntary response such as breathing, heartbeat, swallowing, whatever involuntary things we are doing, our body is performing. So all these are controlled by the medulla only. Breathing, you are breathing oxygen and releasing CO2. It is happening automatically, but actually it is being regulated or controlled by the brain, and that is medulla oblongata part of the brain. Second, heartbeat. Heart is pumping the blood regularly. We are not doing anything. This is being controlled by medulla oblongata. Swallowing of food. Whatever you eat, it is swallowed by us. It is swallowed because medulla oblongata is helping in that. It is regulating that also. Next is secretion of the some of the gland which are also controlled by the medulla oblongata. Glands in our body are doing what? They are releasing the hormones. So these the production of the hormones or the functioning of the glands is also regulated and controlled by the medulla oblongata. Next we will see the spinal cord. Below the medulla oblongata only is the long spinal cord. Let us read there. Extending down from the medulla oblongata is the long spinal cord that comes from the foramen magnum. What is this foramen magnum? It is at the base of the brain only. A small opening is there, oval shaped opening in the occipital bone of the skull. Like the brain only, brain is having meninges, same way spinal cord also is protected by the same meninges. Meninges means same different layers are there, and these meninges also run down the vertebral column. Spinal cord comes from the brain and it enters the backbone. In the center of the backbone it is present. So all over the backbone, top to bottom, that is vertebral column, it is there. Spinal cord is present in the vertebral column. Next now, the spinal cord is a major connection center between the brain and the peripheral nervous system. In the spinal cord, two halves fuse together and form a small canal called the central canal. This canal is filled with a fluid called cerebrospinal fluid, which protects the spinal cord from external shocks. So here again the same thing. You will also observe the diagram now. Let us have a look on this part. Like the cerebrum is divided into two parts, left and the right side. Same way in the spinal cord also two similar halves fuse. Means the left and the right part that are both looking similar to each other, they will fuse. Fuse means what? Fuse means to join together. So two similar halves are joining together, and when they are joining, a small canal. Canal is what? A small opening is there. A small opening is present in the center, that is called as the central canal. In this canal, what is filled? In the central canal only, a fluid or a liquid is present, that is called as cerebrospinal fluid. The same cerebrospinal fluid is present in the meninges of the brain. We have already read this about in the previous few minutes. So here now let us read this. What this cerebrospinal fluid will do? It will protect the spinal cord from external shock. So if this cerebrospinal fluid is present in the meninges of the brain, it will protect the meninges of the brain from the shock. In the case it is in spinal cord, it will protect the spinal cord from the external shock. Now inside of the spinal cord, the inner part of the spinal cord is made up of gray matter, which is having different cell bodies and neurons, that is nerve cells are there. The outer part is made up of white matter. Inner part gray matter, outer part white matter. In the white matter, nerve fibers are there. In the gray matter, what is there? Cell bodies and neurons are there. In the second thing, that is the white matter, what is present? Nerve fibers are present. Only the nerve fibers are present. So on the east side of the spinal cord, there are two horns. One is the dorsal horn, next one is the ventral horn. Dorsal is on the other side, ventral is on the other side. Both are opposite to each other. Then the sensory nerve, that is a sensory nerve, will do what? It will receive the message from the outside of our body. Like our skin is a sense organ, it is connected to the sensory nerve. So these sensory nerves will join with the dorsal horn to pick up the sensation from various organs, whereas the motor nerve will connect the spinal cord to the organs connected. This spinal cord only is the center of reflex action. Whatever reflex action has to be done by our body, it will be done by the spinal cord only. What is reflex action? We don't know about that. That is our topic to be discussed now only. So next topic is about reflex action. We will see there what is this actually. Before we move on to the reflex action, observe this diagram carefully. This is first diagram now. First, upon at the top of our body, human brain is there, and brain is closed inside what? Brain is protected. It is present inside by what? Protected by the cranium. Cranium is also called as skull. That is the bony box. Now the brain at the base, you see, at the base of the brain, a small oval opening is there, from which only what will come outside? Spinal cord is coming outside. So here in the center of the backbone, all around backbone is there, and in the center I am putting red color in that part. So this is the spinal cord, and around this spinal cord you can see both sides, left and right side, bones are there. This is the vertebral column, also called as the human backbone. So in the center of this backbone only spinal cord is present. It arises from foramen magnum, that is oval shaped opening. Where it is present? In the occipital bone of skull. Occipital bone of skull is having this thing. Now observe this diagram. Now if you take a cross section, if you cut this from this side and spinal cord from middle, then we will observe this diagram. So this is how it will look like. So as we have already seen, the left and the right, two similar half are there, two halves are joined together, and when this half will join together, in the center you can see a small empty space is there, that is called as central canal. This central canal is filled with a fluid that is called as cerebrospinal fluid. Cerebrospinal fluid is present or is filled in this central canal. It will protect the spinal cord from external shock. Second thing, what else we have to see? We have to see two horns are present. One you can see here, this is the dorsal horn. On the right here also you can see the dorsal horn connected with the dorsal nerve root. So this is the dorsal horn, and it is connected with the nerve. Where is the nerve coming? This part is this is the nerve. Now in the blue I have circled there. This is the dorsal nerve. On the other diagram also here you can see this is the dorsal nerve. So both sides, dorsal nerve root or sensory neuron is connected to the dorsal horn. Next, on the other side of this spinal cord only, you see there another horn, that is the ventral horn. Now I have closed that in the black now. So this is the ventral horn, and this ventral horn only is connected to a particular nerve that is called as ventral nerve root. Here you can see these are the ventral nerve root. They are I have enclosed in the red color there. So this is how the spinal cord is functioning. Whenever any activity is happening, this sensory neuron will take that message and conduct it to the spinal cord. Spinal cord will decide what to do, and it will send the message or instruction to the body to perform. So this is the pathway in which the messages are conducted. Sensory neuron will take the message from the receptor organs to the spinal cord. Spinal cord will perform the reflex action. It will send the message back in another nerve, that is the ventral nerve root. That from there only motor neurons are present. They will conduct the message back in this. Observe the arrow. In this case, the arrow is showing the direction in which the message or the nerve impulses are moving. Come to the functions now. The spinal cord is acting as a center of processing reflex action. Multiple times you have seen now that spinal cord is the center of reflex action. Whatever response has to be given by the body parts, especially the high hands and the leg, it is being performed by the spinal cord only. Brain will not be involved in this case. Only spinal cord will do all these things. Second point, after the center of reflex action that we have seen, second point is spinal cord conducts the sensory and motor impulses to and away from the brain. So this is also connecting link between the various part of the body and the brain. So any message if it is going to the brain, first of all it will move to the spinal cord. Let us see what this reflex action is. We have already studied reflex action. Center of reflex action is spinal cord. So first of all, let us have an example. So here they have given a particular example: a knee jerk, coughing, yawning, blinking of eyes, sneezing, salivation. All these are the examples. So someone is sneezing. That is an example of reflex action. It is a response of the body. Blinking of eyes. Eyes are blinking regularly. That is another reflex action. Yawning. You are getting bored. You will feel sleepy. So our body will do what? Our body will start yawning. So that is a response of the body to various kind of the situations. So when it is happening, whenever the receptor is stimulated, it sends a signal to the central nervous system, where the brain coordinates the response. In some cases, what is happening? A very quick response is needed, and there is no need of the involvement of the brain, because it is an emergency situation. So reflex action is what? It is a quick, spontaneous mechanical process or response of the body towards the stimulus without involving the brain. The spinal cord will itself decide what to do, what not to do. The pathway of the nerve which is involved in this reflex action, the nervous pathway that is called as the reflex arc. What is the reflex arc? Actually, it is starting from here. Stimulus means something has happened and that is received by the receptor. Receptor will receive it from the sensory neurons, and from the receptor it will go to the spinal cord through the sensory neuron. This spinal cord will send that message to association neuron, and after deciding only it will send to association neuron what to be done, what not to be done. Association neuron will forward that decision to the motor neuron, and motor neuron will send it to the effector organs like our hands and legs, and they will perform whatever to be done. Suppose you touch a hot object. So touching a hot object is the stimulus. That stimulus of the hot object that you have touched here, that is transferred to the receptor. Receptor means our hand, our skin. That our skin will identify something hot has been touched, put your hand back. So in this case, the receptor, that is the skin, receives the message that you have touched something very hot, and this is being received by us because of the sensory neurons that are present in our body. After this message has been received to the spinal cord, the spinal cord will decide that hand to be taken back, we have touched something hot, and then spinal cord send the message to association neuron transmit to the motor neuron, and that is all our body organs will start affecting. So our hand will be pulled back if you have touched something very, very hot. So this is how it is happening. I hope it is all clear to you. One more diagram they have given. If you want, you can see this here. It is starting from here. The receptor receives the message, and from the sensory neuron it goes to the spinal cord. In the spinal cord, in the central canal only, association neuron is present, which helps in deciding what to do, what not to do, and then message is transferred forwarded towards the message is transferred, the result, what to be done, whatever process has to be done by the body, what to do, what not to do, it will be sent to the motor neuron for the implementation. And when motor neuron reaches the effector organ, then our body will start working in that manner only. These reflex actions are very rapid and happen spontaneously without thinking. The spinal cord will not think. For example, you will pull your hand away from the hot flame without thinking about it. It is never like this yet that you have kept your hand on the flame and you are thinking, I should put my hand back or not. It is never happening. Automatically our hand will come back if you have touched something very hot. This is a reflex action of our body. Without thinking, our body is deciding. If it has to think, it will take time. So it is a kind of a very, very urgent situation, an emergency situation is there, and body has to respond very quickly. That is why brain is not involved in this case. If we unknowingly touch a hot object, this heat is sensed by the heat receptors in our hand, and the receptors will start sending the impulses in sensory neuron, which transfer the message to the spinal cord. After that, the impulse is moving towards the association neuron to the motor neuron, and the motor neuron passes the message to the muscle of our arm, and this muscle is the effector organ only. That is, this all whatever we have seen, this we have already read here in very, very short here. This is a flow chart for the reflex action. I hope it is all clear to you. We'll move to the next point, that is Pavlov's experiment. Pavlov's experiment is an experiment performed for the conditioning of the brain. Is it possible to condition the brain? Let us start reading Pavlov's experiment. Normally, they have asked the question. Normally, they are asking, does your mouth water when you hear your mother say that she is making your favorite food? If your mother says something about a favorite dish that you like, and she is making that, even before the food is ready, your mouth will have started watering. So why is it happening? It is because our brain has been conditioned. Our brain is not able to distinguish between the reality and the other things which are being induced in the body. So whenever you hear about your favorite food, whether the food is before you or not, because of the classical conditioning, our tongue will start producing the saliva. So that is conditioned response. This was proved experimentally in the year in 1900, early 1900. Ivan Pavlov, a Russian biologist, he studied this conditioned response. What he did, he trained the dogs to salivate at the end of the bell, and Pavlov knew that naturally dogs salivated when meat was fed to them. To condition this saliva, Pavlov rang a bell each time he presented the food to the dogs. After roaring After the ringing bell was paired many times with the presentation of meat, the dog salivated even on ringing the bell, even when the meat was not available. So the dogs who were salivating earlier, who were producing saliva earlier in front of the food, now after a few days they have started salivation even on the ringing of the bell. Even if no food is available, they are still their mouth is being watered. Why is it so? Because the mind has been conditioned. They expect that on the ringing of the bell only food will come. Even if the food is there or not, a ringing of the bell means food will come. But actually it is not happening now this time. If the bell is only ringing, no food has been prepared. So this is how again they have explained in the diagram here. They have taken a dog, a food, and some food is there. So when the dog is given the food, that dog will start eating. Both the things are unconditioned response and reflex. Next, before conditioning, one more situation is there. Ringing of the bell. Bell is being ringed and no salivation, no response is coming. During the conditioning, what will happen? Bell and food. First of all, food will be kept, and whenever the food is kept, bell will be started to ring. In this case, what will happen? The students, that particular thing, whoever that particular person is being conditioned in this experiment, it is a dog. Whoever is being examined, that person or that animal or organism will identify that whenever the bell is ringing, food is coming. And after the conditioning, what will happen? After the condition, because the mind has been conditioned that on ringing the bell, food is given. So whenever next time the bell is ring, that dog identified that food is coming. Even though food was not there, for that person's brain or for that organism or animal's brain, it will be like food is available there. So that is an example of the conditioning, and it is based on the Pavlov's experiment. He proved it experimentally. One more example they have given, a perfect example of classical conditioning. In the hospital, when a child starts crying, other children who are sitting there for waiting for their turn to meet the doctor, they also start crying. They are all in their parents, in their mother's lap, and the others also start crying. If one is crying because of the needle piercing, one is getting pain because of the needle piercing, because of that injection. But other children, why they are crying? They are crying because they have heard that noise now. One is crying, now our turn is also coming. Even though they may not get any injection, still they are crying because their mind has conditioned now that whenever some child is crying, that means crying is the indication that we may also get an injection now. So that is why other children are also crying. This is a conditioning of the mind. Mind has been conditioned to that situation. Automatically mind will respond in that manner only. Even though nothing as such is happening, still brain will respond in that manner. So that is all about this chapter. Explanation all is over. We'll have the video for the reference of your exercise part, although they have already been provided on the live classes. Still, those who may need those answers or solutions, they may refer to the upcoming video. Thank you for now.